last week I stood here and told you that Dolce and Gabbana are trash. Now, I stand by that statement, but I would like to amend it somewhat. The reason I call them trash is because they sued the fashion watchdog Instagram account Diet Prada for $6 million. However, it turns out that I was mistaken. They actually sued these comparatively tiny Instagrammers for 600 million euros. I don't know if you're familiar with the exchange rate, unless you're like an international banker, in which case, good for you, that's hella doll hairs, but euros are worth more than dollars. That's a lot of hundreds of millions. So that being said, I would like to amend my statement that Dolce and Gabbana are trash. I apologize for that incorrect label. I truly regret the mistake. Instead, I would like to tell you today that Dolce and Gabbana are stinky baby diaper mega doo-doo trash.
Mega doo-doo.
And in this video, I'm gonna go through every single horrible thing they've done to prove it to you. But first, I've looked into it, and a very, very small percentage of you are actually subscribed to the channel. It's completely free. Just press that button and you will not regret it. Thank you so much. First off, if you haven't watched last week's video, I'd highly suggest doing so. It's up here in my little YouTube corner. The wonders of the internet, huh? Anyway, that'll give you a good overview of why Dolce & Gabbana are suing and why they're SBDMDDT. That's my acronym for Stinky Baby Diaper Mega Doo-Doo Trash. It's just a mouthful. And no one wants a mouthful of Stinky Baby Diaper Mega Doo-Doo Trash.
Hey, what's that smell?
Mega doo-doo.
Now, let's dive a little deeper into these numbers. So D&G wants 600 million euros out of Diet Prada. Why on earth would they ask for that? Well, the bulk of it, 450 million, is supposedly what they spent to restore their brand image since 2018. Their brand image was damaged from their own racist actions, so I'm not sure why that's Diet Prada's fault. It's like, I punch a guy in the face, and then someone sees it and yells, "Hey, this guy punched that guy in the face." And then I tell the guy that yelled that now you've got to pay to fix his face because you told people about it.
That don't make no sense.
Geez, that example had more guys in it than a bukkake shoot. Anyway, you can see the absurdity of that claim. What else? Well, they want 3 million in damages for the company because why not? And they also want 1 million in damages for Stefano Gabbana. Now that one is absolutely bonkers. You see, after Dolce & Gabbana posted their racist ads and they started getting criticism, Stefano was feeling a little bit pissy. So he did as any racist narcissist does and took to social media to let off some steam.
I'm a very stable genius.
He started DMing with a model and said some very reasonable, not at all wacko things. For instance, he said the country of poop emojis is China, that they eat dogs, and that China is ignorant, dirty-smelling mafia. I'd say it was these statements more than the ads themselves that led to the cancellation of their massive runway show in China. The hashtag Boycott Dolce was trending on Weibo in the country, and models who were scheduled to walk in the show started canceling en masse. I don't know, I guess the models just needed some time away to think about their dog-eating, dirty-smelling ways. Diet Prada, as an account that follows fashion drama, posted about all of this, just as many smaller and bigger outlets did as well. So now let's get back to that lawsuit. Put yourself in Stefano Gabbana's shoes. Imagine you wrote all of that horrible stuff about China. And then imagine having the fucking dangling donkey balls to tell someone that they owe you $1 million for the racist shit you were spewing out. It's a mind-boggler for sure.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
D&G also want over $8 million for the cancellation of the Shanghai runway show, even though it was Dolce's decision to do so, definitely not Diet Prada's. Although it would be a dope twist if it came out that Diet Prada were on the phone to China like, "Shut it down!" Another $8 million plus is for staff expenditures, and at this point I feel like it's getting a wee bit excessive. Like, sure, we're already suing them, why not ask them to pay our employees as well?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Maybe they're just confused and they think Diet Prada are the people to go to for COVID PPP loans. Finally, Dolce and Gabbana also asked for almost 90 million euros to cover their lost Asian sales from 2018 to 2019. This one I also just don't understand. Were Diet Prada doing their own fashion Boston Tea Party, just dumping Dolce and Gabbana clothes overboard so they couldn't be sold in China? In what world are lost sales their fault? And I get it. I understand what D&G's argument likely is, even if I disagree with it. I'm sure if you were to ask them, they'd try to spin some story like, everything was hunky-dory until Diet Prada started calling us racist, and since then, everything went to hell and it's all their fault.
Where did you learn your trade, you stupid fucking cunt, you idiot?
And maybe Diet Prada should hire me as their lawyer, because I'd just be like, Your Honor, I'd like to point you to Exhibit A.
还是太大了吗？
And Exhibit B. Ugh. And I feel like at that point, it's case closed. All the money Dolce and Gabbana have lost is entirely due to their own actions. The sad thing is, Diet Prada can't even make that case. You see, European defamation laws are way more harsh there than they are in the US. And I'd assume Diet Prada also have an understandable fear that Italian courts, where the case was filed, will be overly biased towards Dolce and Gabbana, an Italian company. So Diet Prada's best move, and the one they made in this case, is to argue that Italy isn't the right place for the case, since the Instagram is American and the supposed damages happen in China. Just as much as I would love to see those DMs read aloud in an Italian court of law, it seems like it just may not be in the cards.
Well, that sucks.
Oof. If only you could see my script, because that's 3 heavy pages of racism and an Italian court case. But hey, I'm a pro. I know I've got to lay the groundwork for you. But now we get to the fun part. And that's because there's a lot more juice in this lemon. The lemon being Dolce and Gabbana, of course, and the juice being racism, homophobia, and more. Fun. So all of the press around this issue lately is related to the Diet Prada lawsuit and the trash heap of crazy Chinese stuff that went down. But I'm going to take you deeper into that stinky baby diaper of trash that is Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana.
Never seen so many backwards-ass country fucks in my life.
So let's start at the beginning. They started the brand in 1985, and actually, for a long time, everything was pretty damn chill. Their first collection was called Real Women. And I'm sure if they were to do that today, it would be labeled transphobic, but this is 1985. Transphobia doesn't even exist yet, you know? Hey, that's sarcasm. Don't worry, I'm woke AF. I'm on your side, okay? So, the designers killed it through the 90s and into the 2000s. They dressed Madonna, Beyonce, and more. Their runway shows were covered with fawning press, and their collections sold incredibly well. I don't know, guys. At this point in the story, I'm starting to feel like things are just great and nothing will ever go wrong with them, you know? I mean, what could they possibly do to ruin it? Well, in 2007, the cracks started to show, and people slowly started realizing that there were some things that were slightly off about Dolce & Gabbana's point of view. You see, they put out an ad campaign that year that didn't go over too well. Seems like that would become a bit of a pattern, huh? In the image from the ad, a woman is surrounded by partially naked dudes, and one is pinning her down by her wrist as she clearly works to break away from him.
Oh, that's not right.
And as you can see, it kind of brings to mind a certain genre of adult film featuring, you know, groups. I suppose you could even call them gangs, you know? Yeah, you get it. You're smart. You're following me. I get it. Anyway, I'm actually pretty proud of mid-2000s Europe. I would not have guessed it, but they actually rightly criticized the campaign for its suggestion of non-consensual sex, and the images were actually banned from being printed in Spain and Italy. But we all know fashion in general is tone-deaf as all hell. Don't forget, it was just the last year that Comme des Garçons was doing white people cornrows, so unfortunately, we've learned absolutely nothing in the past 15 years. Since these are the kind of screw-ups that fashion brands make on the reg, this horror from D&G was essentially forgiven and forgotten. But God love them, they refused to learn from it.
You're what the French call les incompetents.
You see, it's not just people with progressive politics that Dolce & Gabbana love to piss off. They also like to get into hot water with the government. And everyone likes to act like being canceled is the most horrible thing a person can go through, but try going through a federal trial. They give no fucks. We can cancel their clothing sales, the government can cancel their damn life. But that knowledge didn't seem to stop them. You see, they were following that time-honored tradition of shuffling your money offshore so the big swinging dicks of your country can't tax it. Now, that's essentially a long and vulgar way of saying tax evasion. Yeah, apparently Dolce and Gabbana were hiding so much dough that they just went skirt on 200 million euros worth of taxes. Guys, you want 600 million euros from Diet Prada, but apparently you just forgot that you had more than enough hidden away in Luxembourg. Must have just slipped your minds, huh? You silly gooses. Anyway, the Italian government apparently doesn't take kindly to not getting its tax tendies, so they indicted the designer duo in 2010. From there, it worked its way through the courts until finally, in 2014, they were found guilty and sentenced to 20 months in prison. Finally, someone holding millionaires accountable for financial crimes. Justice was actually served. Oh wait, scratch that. They appealed and 6 months later, Italy's version of the Supreme Court found them not guilty. Yeah, that's more along the lines of the kind of treatment of millionaires I've come to expect in this world.
Come on, man!
So Dolce and Gabbana skated by and were able to get right back to making that untaxed Skrilla. At this point, I guess they said, hey, we're kind of over making the government pissed at us. Let's get back to just offending people through fashion, you know? Get back to our roots. And they did just that with the spring 2013 runway show. You see, they decided to make jewelry and dresses featuring racist portrayals of black people. It's a style called blackamoor, but it makes me feel icky just saying that, so from here on out, I'm just gonna call them racist. So they had these racist earrings everywhere, and they even put the face front and center on this dress, and I truly can't comprehend why. Refinery 29 referred to these pieces as imagery that would make even your politically incorrect grandpa think twice. Knowing what we know now about Dolce and Gabbana, I think that may be the best description of their whole aesthetic I have ever heard. Most people in the US were understandably horrified by the pieces, but ya boys decided to double down and try to defend themselves. You see, this style is part of their Italian history, their heritage. Listen, these guys sound like they're ready to head to Texas and defend Confederate monuments. And it's a real good look to take racist images of black people and call it your history. I mean, I can think of a group of people who can probably make that claim with a bit more authority than D&G. I don't know, maybe people of color? The people who were actually enslaved and oppressed and whose literal identity the designers were mining for commercial purposes? But at the same time, Dolce & Gabbana sadly had a point there. For some unfathomable reason, this racist artistic style is still popular in Italy, and pieces like this are still produced to this day in Venice. I don't know, is Italy like some great MAGA fantasy country where it's perpetually the 1950s and racial perceptions haven't advanced since the civil rights movement? Let me know in the comments. And for some reason, these pieces still pop up in the fashion scene. Apparently, tone-deaf tastemakers think it's really hip and artsy to have symbols of oppression around the house. As recently as 2019, a former creative director of Vogue was photographed in her own home with similar mammy jars behind her. I mean, the levels of idiocy it takes to get to that point are beyond me. You're being photographed in your own house, and both you and the photographer are like, yeah, let's take the photos in your little alcove of racism.
You're a scum between my toes.
So all of that is to say that Dolce & Gabbana are just one of many who think this bullshit is okay. But that don't make it okay in my book. You see, I have standards. I'm a man of taste. I like Raf Simons and whatnot. My fashion understanding is unimpeachable. And everyone who comments on my videos tells me so. I really just want to commend Dolce & Gabbana because 2013 was just a really standout year for their racism. Like, I don't know who won the offensiveness Oscar that year, but D&G were robbed. Robbed, I say. That's because on top of that disgusting runway show, Stefano Gabbana decided to go to a party in blackface.
He really is an idiot.
Can someone just explain to me why people do this? I have never once in my life thought, hey, I got invited to a costume party. What should I be? What should I be? Oh, I know, a racist caricature. And really, we can once again kind of chalk this up to the entirety of upper-class Italy being a backwards-ass racist utopia, because it happened at their big Halloween party where the theme that year was Disco Africa. That is just asking for low IQ people to do some real problematic shit. What were the consequences of this one? Literally nothing. It barely even got any press. Alright guys, it's time to get to the big one. Well, the big one before the big one, the latter being the big one about China. Okay, fine, they're all big ones, but yeah, they all suck a lot. But only one of D&G's screw-ups led to a fight with Elton John. This one. And where to even begin? So Stefano Gabbana and Domenico Dolce did an interview with Panorama, a publication that I didn't even know existed, so great claim to fame here, guys. In that interview, Daddy Dom and Steffi decided that this little chat with Panorama was the perfect time to talk about their not at all homophobic views on same-sex parenting.
I got a bad feeling on this.
Okay.
And before I tell you what they said, I want you to keep something in mind. Both Stefano and Domenico are gay men. Apparently, their self-loathing is very, very deep. Okay, here we go. Get your puke buckets ready. Dolce started off his well-reasoned argument by saying, I am not convinced by those I call children of chemicals, synthetic children, and added rented uterus, semen chosen from a catalog. Huh? Stefano jumped in for a 1-2 punch of gay bashing and added, the family is not a fad. In it, there is a supernatural sense of belonging.
You two are just dumber than a bag of hammers.
They are, of course, referring to the process of in vitro fertilization, or IVF. Since gay men cannot naturally conceive children, loving parents find other ways to create the families they want. And good for them, I say. Bad for them, say Dolce and Gabbana, and I honestly couldn't tell you why. They have some irrational hatred for the idea, and they seem to pin it to the idea of family. But there are all sorts of situations where people raise children who aren't biologically theirs, not just through IVF. Do the designers also think that adoption is unnatural? How dare you raise someone if you didn't squirt the load or bake the yolk?
You're disgusting.
I'm so sorry for those mental images. Sometimes I just take it too far, you know? But it's definitely telling that they put that label of unnatural specifically on IVF and gay men. I'm guessing they've got a special emotional concoction going on there comprised of internalized homophobia and a Roman Catholic upbringing. That is a toxic stew if ever I've seen one. Anyway, like I said, this led Elton John to take up arms against the brand. Why they're not suing him too is anyone's guess. Maybe they feel like the Rocket Man is too beloved to win a court case against. And he wasn't the only celebrity taking up arms against Dolce and Gabbana. He developed the SEAL Team 6 of cancelers, from Victoria Beckham to Ricky Martin and Courtney Love. He was like Gerard Butler in 300, only if Gerard Butler looked like your grandma. Usually in situations like these, a brand would issue an apology and then hunker down and hope the storm passes. But Dolce & Gabbana came out with some of the most hilariously non-apologetic apologies that I have ever heard. Stiff Steph wrote, "We firmly believe in democracy and the fundamental principle of freedom of expression that upholds it. We talked about our way of seeing reality, but it was never our intention to judge other people's choices." Take that in for a second. I'll translate for you. Freedom of speech, motherfuckers. Facts don't care about your feelings. Sorry you got so butthurt. Dom Dom didn't do much better with his statement. He said, "I'm Sicilian and I grew up in a traditional family made up of a mother, a father, and children. I'm very well aware of the fact that there are other types of families and they are as legitimate as the one I've known. But in my personal experience, family had a different configuration." So he's going with your typical, "it's just the way I was raised" argument.
You're always this stupid, or did you take lessons?
I took lessons.
You do know we all have our own minds, right? Like, when I was growing up, I was told that Beanie Babies were a great investment, but I grew up and realized that designer clothing was a much safer bet. So what actual consequences did Dolce & Gabbana face for their IVF comments? I mean, none. 6 years later, no one even really remembers it happened. The final line in the New York Times article about the IVF drama was a quote from some media consultant. When she was asked if Dolce & Gabbana would be damaged by the controversy, she said, "I'd be shocked if it had any dramatic impact," which is like the saddest punchline to an article that I have ever read. And she was absolutely right. Hooray for cynicism and inertia and passes for bigotry. In fact, D&G even tried to spin it to their advantage by printing boycott Dolce and Gabbana t-shirts. And keep in mind, this was before the China incident. I don't know how many times a brand needs to be boycotted before they just slink away into the trash pile they came from, but I really feel like Dolce and Gabbana have hit that limit.
You dirt-eating piece of slime!
Geez, guys, this is turning into a long video. It's like my magnum opus. I'm Homer, and this is my Odyssey. My racist, homophobic Odyssey. But we've still got many miles to go, my friends. Let's fast forward to 2016. Dolce and Gabbana have released their Spring-Summer 2016 collection, and included as part of that collection is a pair of sandals that cost $2,400. You'd think the controversy was charging that much for a pair of sandals, but no. The real issue is that they were officially titled the slave sandal. In the sport of tennis, they have a term called an unforced error. Basically what that means is a fuck up that no one caused you to make, that you didn't need to make, but you made the fuck up anyway. And that's what happened here. There was literally no reason to even call them slave sandals. They don't even look inspired by any sort of black history. Instead, they're just kind of your typical Dolce & Gabbana tacky Middle Eastern-ish look. The brand ended up getting a ton of bad press for the footwear, but it ended up blowing over fairly quickly. And now it's time to get political. You see, there was a time in American history where the country had a big orange president, and a wife who was way too hot for him, but he had lots of money, and in America, each $1 billion you have is equivalent to about an extra inch in dong size. But Orange Guy's wife was also seen as pretty cold and heartless, and Orange Dude kinda sucked a lot, so people also didn't really want to mess with his wife. I know all of that was very cryptic, and you're probably not following, so I'm just gonna say who she was. Melania Trump. Most designers tried to stay far, far away from her. Historically, it's been seen as a huge honor to dress a first lady, but with the Trumps, history kinda got thrown out the window. You see, there was a lot of racism, xenophobia, and misogyny swirling around in Trump world, and designers didn't want to touch that shit with a 10-foot pole. For example, Umberto Leone of Opening Ceremony and Kenzo wrote, "No one should dress Melania, and if she buys your clothes, tell people you don't support it. You know who you are." In the fashion world, it wasn't too difficult to figure out what brand he was referring to there. You guessed it, Dolce & Gabbana. Because hey, D&G and the Trumps seemingly share a lot of common values, such as disrespecting minorities and whatnot. So, is it really surprising that they dress Melania? Not at all. I'm like a dad, you know? I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. And while they were in a love affair with Melania Trump, they weren't so keen on some other female celebrities. Maybe they're just addicted to drama, or maybe they were just missing those glory days of beefing with Elton John, but our boy Stefano just can't keep his mouth shut. Remember that concept of an unforced error? Yeah, he made another in 2018. In a situation that had literally zero connection to Dolce & Gabbana, Steffi decided to do some shit-talking on Instagram once again. So this account called the Catwalk Italia posted a photo of Selena Gomez, and like a little snot-nosed 14-year-old mouth breather, Stefano hopped in the comments to share his totally right-minded thoughts about her. His post in English translates to, "She's really ugly."
You are one pathetic loser.
I actually don't have much commentary on this. It's just like, why? What do you get out of that? You're rich as all fuck, so you have no reason to be jealous. If you really do just think she's unattractive, that still leaves no reason to actually say so publicly. It's just some whack-ass attention-seeking shit. You may be surprised to learn that this is a 58-year-old man. I know all of his actions we've talked about throughout this video are those of a 16-year-old, like tops, but he's solidly middle-aged, pushing towards elderly. And when a designer starts getting older and creates as many PR disasters as Dolce & Gabbana do, it's only natural for people to start wondering if the designers will ever step aside and let someone else take over the brand. I know it may seem crazy to some. I mean, the brand is called Dolce & Gabbana, but Martin Margiela no longer designs for Maison Margiela. Jill Sander doesn't run Jill Sander, it happens all the time. However, Dolce & Gabbana have clearly stated that they never want anyone else to take over their brand. And since they're cretins, they couldn't help but throw in a dash of racism on top. Stefano told an Italian newspaper, "Once we're dead. I don't want a Japanese designer to start designing Dolce and Gabbana." I know this is a fashion channel and not a tennis channel, but the unforced errors are strong with this one.
100,000 sperm and you were the fastest.
The word Japanese serves literally no purpose in that sentence. He could have just said another designer and the message would have been just as clear. But no, Steph had to single out a minority group and say, "Fuck off, Japanese designers, you ain't good enough for D&G." The irony there is that Dolce and Gabbana use these Eastern tropes that they have literally no cultural ownership over, so a Japanese designer could actually probably make D&G clothes more authentically than even they could. And guys, that was 2018. The China thing happened in 2019. That means we did it. We made it through all of the Dolce and Gabbana controversies. I feel like we have just been to hell and back. But don't pack up and leave just yet, because I've got some bonus content for you. Because we haven't talked yet about Dolce & Gabbana's response to the China situation. If there's one thing I can say for Dolce & Gabbana, it's that at the very least they stand by their beliefs. Granted, those beliefs are absolute dog farts, but they don't back down. Remember the non-apologies for the IVF stuff? That takes some nads right there. But their response to the China stuff was cowardly as hell. Just to refresh, they posted these horribly racist ads, and then Stefano went into his Instagram DMs and started spewing more racism. Now, how the hell did the brand even attempt to defend those? Well, they got hacked, of course. And not just Stefano either, but both him and the brand's accounts.
You were literally too stupid to insult.
Thank you.
So let's get this straight. So not only did someone hack into Stefano's account and send those racist DMs, they also previously hacked the D&G account and posted the ads too? Who made those ads? The hackers? So they hired camera crews, actors, set designers, film these ads just to hack Dolce & Gabbana and post them to make them look bad? What the fuck? Yeah, this really is the defense they went with. They said, "We are very sorry for any distress caused by these unauthorized posts." How about we're sorry for being two middle-aged Italian racist assholes and we're gonna go into a hole and die now? I'd feel a lot better with that. So what has become of Dolce & Gabbana? Where do things stand now? Well, after the China BS, the massive luxury retailing group Yoox Net-a-Porter stopped carrying the brand. I'm sure that was a huge hit because they run Net-a-Porter for women, Mr. Porter for men, and the outlet site Yoox for both. I mean, not being on those sites since 2019 probably cost Dolce & Gabbana a bunch of money. But I've gotta say, I'm really glad that someone actually stood up to them and said that, oh wait, never mind, they're back on literally all three of those sites. So screw Yoox Net-a-Porter group, I guess? They put out this big press release when they dropped G&G, and a bunch of people were like, hell yeah, good for you, but apparently they were just sitting and waiting like, okay, if people stop being mad, cool, put them back on the site. Another place where Dolce & Gabbana have always had a lot of success is the red carpet. Celebrities love wearing their stuff to award shows because it's opulent and over the top and it looks really expensive. I think there was maybe one award season after the China thing where people didn't wear Dolce & Gabbana, but then they just got right back to it. Zendaya, Mindy Kaling, Emilia Clarke, Elle Fanning, they've all been to award shows in D&G since China. It's like nothing ever happened. So what do I say? Just throw them in the stinky baby diaper mega doo-doo trash pile too. And make sure you watch the other video on screen here, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I'll see you next time.